Hi there, everybody. This is Susan Heaton Wright from Superstar Communicator, and I am so excited. You know what I'm like, but I'm especially excited because I have Jo Rigby from Zappy on the other end of the internet. And Jo is the most incredible woman. Not only does she do a lot of charity work on getting people to cycle, and she's done campaigns around that. However, she is here to talk about the company that she's part of called Zappy, who have the most innovative way of dealing with hybrid working. So welcome, Jo.
Thank you, Susan. And it's great to be here. I actually met Susan when I did some sessions with her on effective communication, which I think's worked pretty well. So I'm sitting here right now in my diva stance, which Susan taught me to do. And yeah, really looking forward to doing this.
So obviously, just share with us what Zappy does.
Okay, so Zappy is a data and tech platform that's aimed at brand creators to help them test, validate, and evolve their creative or their product innovation. So, in a really simple way, a brand will have made an advert or they're thinking about a certain approach to an advert, and they will be able to learn and validate their approach on the platform. It's a self-serve platform. Put your idea on it, it goes out into the universe of respondents, and they'll come back with their opinions, and it's all displayed on a dashboard, so you'll be able to see which parts of the ad are working or not working. We also do it for product innovation, so packaging or new concepts.
Gosh, that must be an invaluable resource for advertising companies and also product development people.
Yeah, it's a really important part of the creative process. So we all have ideas that we want people to love, and using Zappy is a way of reassuring your clients or your agency that you're developing this idea in a way that consumers, the people that you want to respond to this work, are going to love. So we never want to do a sort of it's good, it's not good. It's like, here's all the data to show you where it's connecting and where it maybe needs a bit of work. And I think this is a great time for people to start using an ad evaluation tool, because as people, as consumers, we've changed so much through COVID, and our expectation and our needs from brands have changed. And maybe something that we connected with before it all started isn't quite right now. So I think it's if you've not started doing testing within your creative process, now is a great time to start.
What a good point, which leads us on to the content that we're going to discuss today, and that is about how we work now in a hybrid workforce. And how is Zappy doing this?
So I joined Zappy in November last year. So I wasn't here when we had the full lockdown experience. So I can only talk about what it felt like in the sort of semi-lockdown when it was work from home. And I will say that the difference between where I am now and where I was is we don't really talk about hybrid working.
Oh, right. Okay.
It's Zappy's a tech platform, and it's always, as a business and as a culture, leaned into ways of using technology that help people to work at their best wherever they are. So we don't hear much about hybrid working. We just hear we hear about how we're going to work, and giving people the tools and the space and the culture to help them to work. So I'm sitting in the Camden office right now. There's some people in, but we've also got offices in Boston, in South Africa, and I've got colleagues who took the opportunity to leave London. And maybe we'll come into Camden once a month. We've just taken on this amazing guy, Jody, who's our head of product. He's up in Manchester, lucky guy, and I know that he's got no plans to leave Manchester. But I see him around the office every couple of weeks, and I think Zappy's focus is on making sure you do come together and experience working with your colleagues, but it doesn't matter where that happens.
It's interesting though, because I can imagine that some people will be listening to this, think if they are founders or owners of a company, thinking, how on earth am I able to keep connected with my team? So what is special about what Zappy does?
So from my experience, what Zappy is brilliant at doing is buying the best technology in and connecting it. So some of the apps that I'm using when I work, I've experienced them in other places and they've never quite taken off. So for example, we use Slack all of the time. And I know a lot of people groan when they're faced with Slack, but culturally, Slack is how we connect and communicate. And we just wouldn't really think about sending an email to a colleague. I don't think I've sent more than 10 emails since I joined Zappy internally. Gosh. Everything, we use email for clients. Yes. We use Google. But Slack is the way that we connect for business and for fun. And so there's a range of different channels, and you just know which channel to keep on top of. So I'm going to make sure that I'm looking at the sales leadership channel pretty often throughout the day. But we also have a bird watching channel, and I'll dip into that a couple of times a week to see what kind of birds some of my colleagues in like other markets are seeing, or to post pictures of my own birding. And so Slack is fantastic and I love it. And the other thing that we use is heavy use of video. And that's such a personal, human way of connecting. So Ryan, who's our president, if he wants to share some thoughts or ideas or tell us about a new offering, it doesn't land on an email. It's usually Ryan standing outside his house or in his office, just doing a very quick video going, hi, here's what I'd want to share with you. He posts it up on Slack and we'll go and view it. And you feel like you've been in the room with Ryan as he's had that thought.
That's amazing. Just to go back a little bit, in case there's anybody that's listening or watching today, what is Slack for people that might not know?
Yes, so I'm not technical. I don't know how they built it, but it's a platform where you can create different channels and you can add different people to the channel. You can take yourself out of it if you're no longer interested in birding, then come out of the Never Not Birding channel. And then there's the sort of professional channels where if I want to ask somebody about sample size and just to check I'm using the right sample size, I will just go onto the sample channel and place a question there, and somebody will come back to me. I found it really useful when I was doing my onboarding, because I would post a question and somebody would make a video with the answer, and I felt like I absorbed the information so much better, because I I was just watching them and hearing them speak. And if I really hadn't got it, I could watch the video again.
That's brilliant.
Maybe that's the way that some people are better with, like, oral communication, aren't they? Oral communication.
Absolutely.
That really works for me, rather than sitting trying to decipher an email.
Yeah.
And another piece of tech that we use, which I'd never heard of before, is Gong. Gong, isn't that great? And how that works is, when we have a call with a client, Gong records the call, and it helps us to share some of the questions that the client might have been asking, or a challenge on the call. So if a client's saying, well, what do I do about sample size in X market? And I'll go, I'm really sorry, I don't know. I'll just clip that bit of the call, put it on the sample Slack channel and say, can somebody watch this? Instead of me having to go, right, I think this is what they wanted to know, and I'm going to write an email about it. So I love Gong. And also, if I've had a call with a customer and I want to get learnings for how I can better represent Zappy and better communicate what Zappy does, that Gong call will be viewed by the enablement team, and they'll write some feedback, in a very constructive way. Here's how that call could have been more productive, or here's how this particular solution is best explained. I feel like it's amazing, isn't it?
This is amazing, because you are not talking about hybrid. You are talking about working.
Yeah. And the flow of information around an organization in the fastest, automated, and actually most human way. And I do think it's been possible for Zappy to do this because Zappy has always gone culture first, strategy second. And I have never worked in a place that has a culture like Zappy that's completely built on trust. And I think that some of the companies that are struggling with hybrid, it's actually not the hybrid working that's the issue. Is the culture right? Is there trust? And actually, is there a community? Because if you have trust and community and you have great tech, you don't need to talk about hybrid working. It's just things work wherever you are.
That's really interesting. Now, I don't know if there are any questions from anybody. If you've got a question, please feel free to put it in the comments box, because it's so useful to get some input from other people. But I've got some other questions here. You mentioned about your CEO, the founder. How on earth does he keep in contact with everybody? Because we know with founders and with people who have their own companies, there's so much love about that. And you might want to direct your team in a particular way. How's he able to do that when he's not physically in the office all the time?
Yeah, so Steve Phillips has grown Zappy. There's now 300 of us. And
wow, I didn't realise you were that big.
Yes, and growing. So we're all over the world. We have our home base like Camden or Boston, but we're literally all over. And we have this event every Friday that we all join, and it's the Friday wrap up. And it's the same format every week. You start off and somebody is DJing on it. So it's a Zoom call. Somebody's DJing. I'm going to be DJing for International Women's Day. I've been picking my favorite female tunes. And so we'll have a bit of DJing as people join, and we have a camera on culture, unless you're feeling like completely like deathly. So cameras on, everybody joins, and it's the most efficient meeting I've ever been to, where
Really?
news is conveyed. People don't seem to overrun. I don't know how that. I don't know how
What's
that
the magic there? Because that's
How does
something
that
that
happen?
people...
Because in other places, the meetings go on forever, but Zappy's good with meetings. And so somebody will talk about a new product or a new solution or a new client. And then we have Zappy versaries, which is when somebody who's been at Zappy a certain period of time comes on and celebrates their time at Zappy. And I always love that. And then we have a kudos board where that's another app where we'll place comments about things we've appreciated from Zappy colleagues throughout the week, and then a different person will read out the kudos. And Steve is, that is his meeting. And, when you switch a camera on, Steve's always bopping away to whatever tune he's on. And so it's a mixture of, it's fun, but it's the time of the week. It's the place that pulls us all together as Zappy and celebrates what we've done. And then off we go for the weekend. And obviously in London, we go off for it a bit faster than the people who've joined in Boston.
That's amazing. And what I get from this, the real kudos, that not only do you celebrate as a community, but also you don't have someone dominating for ages. It's short, sweet, yay, and then everyone can get on with their weekend.
Yeah, it's very communal. The other thing that I think works is food. I think food's really important in bringing people together. So at Zappy, we have another app called, I think it's called What's My Lunch app. And these are all integrated apps. And if you come into the office on a Tuesday and Thursday, lunch is provided. This is Camden. I think the same thing happens. And so there's a selection of like 3 food items, and you select which one you want at the beginning of the week, and then the food is delivered. And we have a room upstairs where it's kind of quite Scandinavian. There's benches and long tables, and people sit together and we eat food together, and that feels good. Wednesday is not officially pizza day, but we are always delighted because pizza arrives. And I know today I could hear murmurings that pizza was coming. It's just been delivered. So there'll be, I'm hoping somebody's left me a piece. But it's a thing that, if you wanted to bring your family together or your friends, you'd put food out. And I think it's a really important part of work, isn't it? Just enjoying those moments together.
And do you think that this is an opportunity for people to really get to know each other outside their job description?
Completely. So I will end up having my lunch sitting next to people who code and who are engineers. And, so I'll be hearing about how they're building the next version of Zappy. Or I'll be sitting next to some of my colleagues from South Africa have arrived today. So I'll be catching up to hear what they're doing. And you can do that a bit on Zoom, but that is the thing that is nice in the office. And then sort of my personal way of making it all work is, you might have noticed, I have started to do this thing on LinkedIn where I'm cycling to my meetings, and I'm talking about what kinds of things I'm doing at Zappy is to bring the platform to agencies. But I'm also talking about moving around London on a bike, and I'll have done 20 miles today, I've worked out, between meetings. And it is drizzling a bit. But for me, that is, that's been good, because I think when we were in full lockdown, we saw the moments between Zoom meetings where we would have been traveling or commuting, and we were thinking, oh, we're way more productive because we're now using that hour to have another meeting. And I feel like it's really a good health benefit for me to have this commuting time to clients, and I'll be preparing myself for the meeting as I get there, and on my way back, as I'm cycling back to the office, I'll be thinking about how to, the things that I need to action and progress.
Now, one thing that's coming up in my mind, and it honestly, if anybody does have a question, please add it, because I've got lots of questions, but I might miss something that could be of huge value to somebody else. One thing I keep thinking is, it's all very well having Slack and pizza and lunch and things like that. How on earth is the quality of work, the efficiency, deadlines, how are they managed?
Okay, let me think what we use for that one. We will use, so Salesforce is how we track projects and stages of projects, so that we'll know at what stage we're at with a certain initiative with a client. So yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think. So it's a really good question.
Do you think it could be related to trust, that you have got a culture of trust? Because I know, talking to some of my clients occasionally, they are genuinely worried that either individuals or a team are not pulling their weight because they're all working remotely.
Yeah, I think I struggle to answer that question because it's not something I've experienced here. People are there for you. Everyone wants to make this work. Everyone's emotionally involved in Zapy and supporting our customers. So I've never been let down here, and hopefully I've never let anyone down, because we just know that how we all work together as a team, and roles are very clear. I think that's another thing. If you've got your strong culture, you've got people understand the role, they understand the process, stuff happens. And the more we've been talking about this, I'm actually thinking when businesses aren't getting hybrid to work, I don't think they're looking at the right thing, possibly. I think there's deeper issues about clarity and culture, and maybe some of the tools, because it should work.
That's really interesting. I mean, obviously I don't want you to put you on the spot, but presumably before Zappy, you were working in another organization during lockdown, and was it the same experience, or were there challenges?
I think that was more challenging because there was really no culture of working anywhere but the office, whereas Zappy it's a tech company, so it's always embraced working anytime, anywhere.
Yes.
It wasn't such a huge leap to go, okay, now we're doing that all the time. I think if you're a business that had felt reticent about home working, or were suspicious about where people were,
yes,
it was challenging.
Maybe that's the key to it, that the companies that have been able to adapt easily already had that culture in place.
Yeah, already had trust, and Yeah, I mean, I did come from agencies, and there was always like a little snigger when somebody was like, "Well, where's such a body? Because it's Friday." Oh, they're working from home. And
Oh,
there was always like this sense of of course, they're not working from home, and it's like, but they were. It was just it's a deep presenteeism that will take a while to work through. But yeah. It's been really interesting sort of preparing for this call, Susan, because we don't have a rule book for how we
really?
work. We don't have procedures and set guidelines. Steve said last week on our disco call that what's important for him is just that people spend time together. And that could be in the Camden Head, which is the Zappy pub of choice. It could be in a local coffee shop. I really love going for walks with people in Regent's Park. So I like to have time. So when I met Ryan for the first time, who's the president of Zappy, I booked in an 8 a.m. walk around Regent's Park. And then a couple of hours later, I did another walk around with Julio. So I did like 2 laps of Regent's Park that day and got to spend time with them. And I think that outdoor meeting should definitely be part of hybrid working, because it's sometimes difficult to get up and get out, isn't it?
This is amazing because, if I think of many of my clients, they would be thinking, a walk around a park. What's the value of that? I've got to bill my clients, and yet she's going for a walk in Regent's Park with how? And so there's a real shift in mindset, isn't there?
Yeah, and it's great. You come back and you've had exactly the same meeting. You've discussed the same things, but you've been out in nature. You've had some fresh air. You've moved your body, and you kind of go, "Yes, I got out today." So yes, I like working near Regent's Park. That's a real bonus.
So to summarize, we haven't had any questions today. Everybody's very, very quiet, which is unusual. But if anybody's watching later, or in fact listens to the podcast, please feel that you can reach out to either Jo or myself to ask questions, because I believe this is a groundbreaking conversation that we're having, because this is not the conversation I've been having with other people about this way of working. But to summarize, there are a few key things here, aren't there? It's the culture, the fact that, and the advantage for Zappy was that you'd already got this in place before we went into lockdown. I know you weren't a member at the time, but there was already this culture of trust, that people could work from home or work remotely, and that wasn't frowned upon. That to bring the human element into it. So there's a human connection and a can do. I want to help this person.
Yeah.
The use of the use of various apps and technology.
Lots of apps. I think I've named chat. I haven't even covered all of them.
Oh God, you want to name them all? I'll write them down as well. So if you're listening,
starting to use On24 to have. I'm going to be doing my very first webinar. I'm very excited about that, using On24. We've got this app called Hi Bob, which is where you have your sort of personnel information, you book your time off, you can look at organograms in the organization, so you can go, oh, who's in which team. That's really fast. There's ways of setting up information. You don't need to email people or ask, you can go and look. So we've covered Gong, we've done Drift, which is the video, we've got Slack, and of course, we've got Zappy, which is a platform in itself and has all of our solutions on it. and they're all sitting on this big one login. And
that's amazing. And presumably you can have it on your phone as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, everything is just to hand. And I'm not really techie, Susan. I'm not, I've got an iPhone that's 8 years old, and but I feel very comfortable with with how the tech has been applied and how it's explained. I don't feel overwhelmed. And I think it's really important because I don't feel shut out as an older woman that I don't understand the tech. It feels like an inclusive way of using tech.
What a good message that is. As you say, we as older women, we can feel cut, excluded from this technical world where, you and me are embracing it in our own ways.
Yes.
So this has been the most extraordinary conversation. I know that when people listen to this, and obviously I will repurpose it as well, that this will provide a huge amount of content and ideas of how to approach hybrid working. If anybody wants to contact you or wants more information about Zappy, could you just share it with the audience, please?
Oh yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn. You'll find me there. So just DM me, and really happy to have a longer conversation about how we've set up for work here, or if you've got creative or product testing needs.
Yes, of course.
Susan, thank you for creating a platform to talk about this in a really human way.
Thank you. My pleasure.
I'm going to see if there's any pizza left.
Okay, you better go quickly. You take care. And
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.